AITA for refusing to drop the charges after my fiancée stole everything from me? Me, a 35-year-old man. I never thought I'd be the guy posting about relationship drama on Reddit, but here we are. I guess I need to get this off my chest. 6 months ago, I had it all figured out. Working as a network engineer at a decent tech company, not FANG, but it paid the bills and then some. Driving my 2019 Tacoma that I loved, and living in a nice 2-bedroom apartment with my fiancée, Amber, 31. We'd been together for 3 years, engaged for the last 8 months, and planning our wedding for next spring. I had about $42,890 in savings, no major debt besides my truck, and, for once, life was looking pretty good. Now I'm sitting on my friend Jake's couch, eating ramen for the 3rd time this week, and trying to explain to debt collectors that I didn't take out a $58,000 loan for a boat. What the heck? How did it all go so wrong on a random Thursday? I was out with my buddy Connor at a new burger joint downtown. We were having a good time, joking around, when I went to pay and my card was declined. Super embarrassing, but whatever, probably forgot to transfer some money. So I pull out my backup card, declined too. That awful sinking feeling started to grow in my stomach as I checked my banking app under the table. My accounts were empty, both of them. $42,890. All my savings, just gone. I called Amber like 5 times. She didn't answer, went straight to voicemail. The guys covered my bill, and I drove home, hands shaking on the wheel the entire way. When I got to our apartment, half of her stuff was gone, just vanished. There was a note on the kitchen counter that just said, "It's not working. Sorry." That was it. Nothing about the money. Nothing about where she went, just sorry. I spent that night in full-blown panic mode. Called the banks, checked accounts, pulled credit reports. It got worse by the minute. Not only were my savings gone, but she'd opened 5 credit cards in my name totaling $52,750, 2 personal loans totaling $38,000, and a boat loan for $58,000. What the actual heck? When I finally managed to get a hold of her the next day, she wasn't even trying to hide it. "Yeah, I took some money," she said casually. "You always said what's yours is mine." "No, that's not how prenuptial agreements work." Then she laughed and said, "Good luck proving any of the rest was me. It's all in your name, not mine." The whole time I was talking to her on the phone, I was pacing around our half-empty apartment, staring at the spaces where her things used to be. The blank spot on the wall where her pretentious art print hung, the empty side of the closet, the bathroom counter cleared of her 15 different creams and serums. It was like she was slowly erasing herself from my life, while simultaneously planning to financially ruin me. I didn't sleep that night, or the next, or the one after that. The panic attacks started a few days later. Ever had that feeling where your chest tightens, you can't breathe, and you're 100% convinced you're dying? Yeah, turns out that's what happens when someone you completely trusted decides to destroy your life. At first, I didn't post anything here. Honestly, I was too embarrassed. How do you tell a bunch of strangers on the internet that the woman you were going to marry wiped you out financially and left you with nothing but a mountain of debt and a note that didn't even have the decency to acknowledge what she'd done? But I'm getting ahead of myself. Looking back now, the red flags were everywhere, and I was too blind to see them. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, parents married for 40 years, and that taught me to believe in commitment. Dad worked at the same factory for 35 years. Mom was a school secretary. They taught me to work hard, save money, and be loyal. Dad always said, "Ryan, your word is the only thing you have in this life. You break it once, nobody will ever trust you again." I took that to heart. So, when I met Amber at my company's Christmas party, she worked in HR, I thought I'd found someone with the same values. She was smart, ambitious, came from what she called a good family. She had this way of making you feel like the most interesting person in the room when she talked to you. Looking at it now, that should have been red flag number 1. She was too good at telling people exactly what they wanted to hear. But man, the signs were there from day 1. She always got defensive whenever I even glanced in her direction when she was on her phone. One time, I just reached over and looked at her side, and she flipped the phone face down and asked why I was spying on her. I laughed it off at the time. She used my laptop constantly, said hers was too slow for what she needed to do. She would ask me weird questions about my accounts, security questions, password reset emails, things that, at the time, didn't seem suspicious. "Honey, what was your first pet's name again?" What street did you grow up on? Classic security questions. A week before she disappeared, she asked me for my grandmother's maiden name while we were watching TV. When I told her, she made a comment about how old-fashioned it was and immediately changed the subject. In hindsight, she was literally collecting my security answers right in front of me. My friend Jake, 34, even tried to warn me once. We were at his place watching the game, and he said something like, "Dude, don't you think it's weird how Amber's always asking about your financial stuff?" I brushed it off, told him she was just being practical about our future. He gave me a look like he wanted to say more, but decided against it. What an idiot I was for not listening to him. There were times I'd get notifications about login attempts that I just dismissed as system glitches. Emails about account changes that would disappear from my inbox, and I never questioned. Times when small amounts would vanish from my savings, and I'd figure it was some purchase I'd forgotten about. $200 went missing once, and when I mentioned it, she immediately suggested my card might have been compromised and I should order a new one. So I did. Problem solved. Nope, wrong. She was just testing how easy it would be to psychologically manipulate me. She was good, really good. She made it seem like I was the paranoid one whenever I questioned anything. "Don't you trust me?" was her go-to line. And I stupidly did. When I once asked about a weird $200 withdrawal, she rolled her eyes and said, "God, Ryan, are you really going to be one of those controlling husbands who scrutinizes every penny I spend?" She made me feel like a complete jerk for even asking. She'd also do this thing where she'd pick fights about ridiculous stuff, like how I loaded the dishwasher, or spending too much time playing video games with Jake. And then, days later, I'd notice another small amount gone from my account. It was like she was creating distractions. When I asked her where all my money went, after she took everything, she just said, "Places. Don't bother looking for it." And then twisted the knife further. I needed a fresh start. You were too boring anyway, always wanting to save for retirement and buy a house. So predictable and pathetic. Some of us want to actually live, Ryan, not just count pennies for 40 years until we die. The next morning, she came with her brother, Cade, 28, to get the rest of her stuff. Cade's always been a deadbeat, tattoos up his arms, vape permanently attached to his hand, never held down a job longer than 6 months. I'm pretty sure he knew exactly what his sister had done because he couldn't look me in the eye once. I confronted her again, and she just smirked while looking at her brother. Good luck proving it was me. I know exactly how to cover my tracks. Besides, who's going to believe you? I work in HR, remember? I know how to make you look like the crazy one. Wouldn't be the first time a bitter ex tried to blame his financial problems on his girlfriend. I didn't yell, I didn't plead. I just watched them load the car. Something in me snapped, or maybe it ignited. As soon as their car disappeared down the street, I locked the door and started making calls. First, the police. Reported the identity theft and fraud. Then lawyers. Then, every bank and credit card company I could remember. The first cop who took my report, Officer Martinez, 40, didn't give me much confidence. "These cases are tricky," he kept saying, "especially between couples. It's hard to prove criminal intent." The detective they assigned to my case later, Detective Wilson, 50, already looked tired before I even finished explaining everything. But, at least, she took notes and seemed to actually listen. "Look, Mr. Donovan," she said when I was done, "I'm not going to sugarcoat this. These cases are tough to prosecute. Juries see a couple and assume shared finances. They give the benefit of the doubt. But, and that's when I started to feel a glimmer of hope. If you can give me concrete evidence that she did this without your knowledge or consent, I'll do everything I can." So I decided to prove everything. I took a week off work and started working full-time on building the case. Then I spent another 5 weeks devoting every evening and weekend to it while still working my regular job during the day. My boss, Gary, 42, was surprisingly understanding about my situation and let me take longer lunches to make calls to banks and lawyers. "My sister went through something similar with her ex," he told me. "Take the time you need. Just don't let it derail Project Bear." Right. I documented everything. Got security footage from the building, showing her leaving with boxes on the same days the transfers were made. The building manager, Phil, 60, was actually super helpful when I explained what happened. "My daughter went through a nasty divorce last year," he said. "The guy tried to hide assets. I know how these things work." He gave me full access to the security footage without even asking for a warrant. I recovered deleted browsing history from my laptop. She wasn't as tech-savvy as she thought. Found email confirmations for the cards and loans in the deleted items folder. I also found screenshots of text messages between her and her friend, Tiffany, 29, where she literally called it her escape plan, and Tiffany responded, "Girl, you are so smart. He'll never know what hit him." The craziest part, I discovered my passwords saved in a folder on her cloud account, which synced to our shared tablet. She'd been planning this for months, making small withdrawals, testing passwords, intercepting my financial emails. I found a spreadsheet, guys. A detailed list of all my accounts, passwords, security questions, and even notes on which ones were easiest to access. Who does that? The more I dug, the more evidence I found, and the angrier I got. Meanwhile, my financial situation was a disaster. I had to crash on Jake's couch because I couldn't afford rent. My credit score plummeted from 798 to 510. I was living off ramen and whatever Jake and his girlfriend, Megan, 32, were cooking. Jake even lent me his spare suit for meetings with the lawyer and the detective because most of my clothes were still in the apartment I could no longer afford to go back to, and I couldn't afford more clothes either. I filed for victim status with the credit bureaus to dispute all the fraudulent accounts, but that takes forever. The banks froze my remaining accounts during the fraud investigation, so I couldn't even access what little money I had left. I lost my truck, fell behind on 2 payments while trying to sort out the financial mess, and they repossessed it. 7 years of perfect payment history didn't mean a thing. Watching them tow it away was like losing a friend. Pathetic, I know, but that truck was the first big thing I bought for myself after working hard for years. The worst part was explaining to my parents what happened. Mom cried. Dad just got this look. Not disappointment, exactly, but a kind of sadness I'd never seen in him before. "You'll get through this," he told me. Donovans always do. He offered to lend me money, but now that they're retired, they're on a fixed income, and the last thing I wanted was to drag them into this mess too. Every day brought a new humiliation. Getting my card declined at the grocery store, explaining to my coworkers why I was suddenly taking the bus, counting change to buy laundry detergent. And through it all, I kept building my case, piece by piece, document by document. Detective Wilson was impressed with what I'd put together. "This is more than most victims bring us," she said, flipping through my binder of evidence. "Most can barely provide bank statements." After almost 2 months in this hell, I finally got the call from Detective Wilson. They were pressing charges. Multiple felonies, identity theft, fraud, grand larceny. The prosecutor, Mrs. Patel, 40, was confident with the evidence we'd gathered. "This is one of the clearest cut cases I've seen," she told me in our first meeting. Mrs. Patel was this tiny woman, maybe 5 feet 2 inches, but she had this intensity that made you feel like she could tear anyone apart in court. "The evidence is comprehensive, the intent is obvious, and the amounts are significant enough that no jury is going to see this as just a lover's quarrel misunderstanding." For the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe, just maybe, this nightmare could actually end someday. That night, Amber's mother, Karen, 58, called me, crying. I'd never liked that woman. Raised Amber to believe she deserved the world handed to her on a silver platter, without having to work for anything. Karen was the type of person who demands to speak to the manager over a 30-second wait at Starbucks. Now I understood where Amber got it from. "Ryan, please drop the charges," she begged. "She made a mistake. She's going to get 15 years. She's my only daughter. We'll pay you back, Ryan. We'll work something out." I just told her she should have thought about that before she took everything I had. Karen went ballistic. She was just taking what she deserved. "You always controlled the money." She went on about how I wouldn't let her buy nice things, how I scrutinized every penny. Totally false. Amber made $72,000 as an HR manager, and I never controlled her spending. She had her own accounts, her own credit cards. But Karen always made excuses for her princess. "Your daughter opened 5 credit cards in my name," I said, trying to stay calm. "Took out loans without my knowledge. Emptied accounts that weren't even joint. That's not taking what she deserved. That's theft and fraud." "Well, if you hadn't been so controlling." I hung up and blocked her. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. The audacity of these people to try to turn this around on me. Then, Amber called from an unknown number, suddenly all sweet and scared. "Ryan, honey, we can fix this. I'll pay you back. I was going through something, like a mental breakdown, or something. Please don't do this. We can still work things out between us." I recorded that call. More evidence. "You took everything I had," I told her. "Left me with nothing but debt and a note." "I know, and I'm so sorry," she said, her voice cracking. "I don't know what I was thinking. I can explain everything if you just give me a chance. Can we meet somewhere just to talk?" "Sure," I said. "Let's meet at the police station. You can explain everything to Detective Wilson, too." She hung up. The arraignment was set for the following month. My lawyer, Mr. Goldstein, 60, says it's an unusually clear-cut case of domestic identity theft. Whatever that means. Goldstein is an old-school lawyer who's seen it all and isn't impressed by much. He has a way of explaining everything in plain terms that made me feel like maybe, just maybe, there was a way out of this mess. "The good news," he told me, "is that we have a strong case. The bad news is that recovering the money in these situations is often difficult. People spend it, hide it, transfer it to others. Don't get your hopes up about getting it all back. I'm still sleeping on Jake's couch, still rebuilding my life. There are still days when I can't believe this is my reality. But I'm going to see this through to the end. Not just for the money, but so she knows she can't get away with this." It's been almost 6 weeks since my last update. I haven't posted anything sooner because, 1, this is exhausting, and 2, Goldstein advised me to be careful about what I share online until the case is resolved. But I need to vent, and you guys were so supportive last time. After I posted here, I got a bunch of private messages asking if Amber had done this before. I hadn't even thought to look into it. I tracked down her ex before me, Chris, 36. We met at a coffee shop. He was reluctant to talk at first, but eventually, he told me that when they broke up, she drained their joint account, about $12,000. He never reported it because it seemed like more trouble than it was worth, with lawyers and all that. "She told me I was crazy," he said, staring into his coffee. "Said I must have spent it and forgotten. She made me doubt myself so much I ended up going to therapy, thinking I had some kind of memory problem." I passed that information on to Detective Wilson. They added it to the file. Meanwhile, Amber's family went full-blown crazy with the harassment. Karen created like 6 different social media accounts to message my friends, telling them I'm a vindictive monster. Her dad, Bill, 62, showed up at my work, and security had to escort him out of the building. Jake's girlfriend, Megan, got a message from Amber's cousin, Jen, 27, calling me a pathetic loser who's just mad he got dumped and saying I probably deserved it. Jake has been a rock through all this, not just letting me stay at his place, but also getting angry on my behalf when I was too emotionally numb to do it myself. "These people are insane," he said after hearing about Bill showing up at my office. "You need to get a restraining order." "I'm working on it, but the courts are slow. Last week, I got served with legal papers. Amber is suing me for defamation. Claims I'm ruining her reputation with false accusations." Goldstein literally laughed out loud when I called him about it. He said, "It's a desperate attempt to scare you into dropping the criminal charges, and it will likely be thrown out at the first hearing." The financial hell continues. A job offer I had at Systec was rescinded when they ran a credit check. I finally regained access to my checking account, but I only have like $285 in it. Jake is still letting me stay, but Megan is clearly getting tired of the situation. I don't blame her. I've been sleeping on their couch for almost 3 months, taking up space in their 1-bedroom apartment. I try to help out, doing dishes, cleaning, buying groceries when I can, but it's not the same as having my own place. Some small victories. I got approved for a secured credit card with a $500 limit. One of the credit bureaus removed the fraudulent account from my report after 6 weeks of calls and emails. I found a weekend job doing tech support at a warehouse. They pay cash at the end of the day. It's under the table, so not ideal long-term, but it's helping me save up for first and last month's rent somewhere. The criminal case keeps growing. Mrs. Patel discovered Amber used my identity to apply for an $85,000 business loan that I had no idea about. It was for a life coaching business she was apparently going to start with Tiffany. They've frozen some accounts she transferred money into, but a lot of it is already spent or hidden. A quick internet search showed she'd been posting Instagram photos from expensive restaurants, and somehow managed a weekend trip to Cancun 3 weeks after completely cleaning me out, living the high life with my money while I was eating ramen on a couch. I printed those Instagram posts and added them to my ever-growing binder of evidence. Mrs. Patel said they would be helpful for the trial. Showing she spent the stolen funds on luxuries rather than necessities could help demonstrate intent. The lowest moment was when I ran into a mutual friend, Sarah, 33, at the grocery store. She was at our engagement party, helped Amber plan the surprise proposal. Yeah, Amber proposed to me, another red flag I should have seen. She wanted to control everything. Sarah saw me and did a full-body double-take. Ryan, oh my God, you look. She trailed off, clearly shocked by my appearance. I'd lost about 15 pounds since all this started. Wasn't sleeping well, and probably looked like a walking corpse. Yeah, it's been a rough few months, I said. Sarah shifted uncomfortably. I heard about what happened with Amber, she said. That you guys just drifted apart. I almost laughed. That's what she's telling people? That we drifted apart? Did she mention the part where she stole my identity, drained my accounts, and left me with tens of thousands in fraudulent debt? Sarah's eyes went wide. What? No, she just said you were controlling and she needed to get out. That's when I realized Amber had been constructing her own narrative with all our friends, painting herself as the victim who escaped a bad relationship, not the criminal who committed major fraud. Sarah, she's being charged with multiple felonies, I said quietly. There's security footage, bank records. She planned this for months. Sarah just stared at me, then mumbled something about being late for an appointment and practically ran out of the store. Haven't heard from her since. Another friendship casualty in Amber's war on my life. The weirdest thing was, last week, I ran into Amber at Target. I was buying generic mac and cheese and toilet paper, the glamorous life of the financially ruined. She was in the makeup aisle, cart piled high with expensive products. When she saw me, she had the nerve to look annoyed, like I was inconveniencing her. What are you doing here? She asked, like I didn't have a right to buy toilet paper. Shopping, I said, with what little I have left. She rolled her eyes. God, you're so dramatic. It wasn't that much money. I laughed. It was everything I had, Amber. Everything. Plus, you left me with tens of thousands in debt. Well, maybe you should have treated me better, she said, examining her nails, which I noticed had a fresh, expensive manicure. Besides, we were going to get married. What's yours is mine. I just took it a little early. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The audacity of this woman was astounding. There she was, in designer clothes, perfect makeup, perfect nails, all paid for with my money, telling me I was being dramatic about having my life destroyed. That's not how this works. You stole from me. You committed fraud. I didn't think it would go this far, she said, suddenly switching to victim mode. I just wanted a fresh start. You can stop this if you want. I just shook my head and tried to walk away. I'll tell them you knew, she yelled after me. That you gave me permission for everything. It'll be your word against mine, and I come across much better than you do. That's when I turned around and said, that's why I recorded our last phone call, where you admitted to taking everything. And every call since then. And this conversation is being recorded too, by the way. And how about that Cancun trip you posted about? I'm sure the prosecutor would love to know how you paid for that. You should have seen her face. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Then her expression turned ugly. You're going to regret this, she hissed. Nobody likes a bitter ex. And nobody likes a thief, I replied, walking away. I was shaking by the time I got in my car, partly from rage, partly from the shock of how casually cruel she could be. This was a person I'd planned to spend my life with, someone I'd completely trusted. And there she was, in Target, using my stolen money to buy luxury makeup while I counted change for ramen. The trial dates have already been pushed back twice. It's currently scheduled for next month. Mrs. Patel says that's normal, but it's killing me. I just want this to be over so I can start rebuilding my life. I'm still sleeping on Jake's couch. Still eating like a college student. Still having nightmares about checking my bank balance. What happened next wasn't what I expected, but it gave me something I didn't even know I needed. Closure and revenge served ice cold. 2 days before the trial, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Tiffany, Amber's best friend and accomplice. Ryan, you have to help us, she said, her voice shaking. Everything's falling apart. Turns out, Amber had been burning through the stolen money like it was going out of style. The business, They started was more like a personal slush fund for shopping sprees, trips, and parties. But Amber had also been scamming Tiffany. Amber had been putting business expenses on credit cards she'd opened in Tiffany's name, without telling her. She told her it was temporary. Tiffany, it's me. But now Tiffany's credit was ruined, and collection agencies were calling her. I didn't know she was doing this to you too. I swear. I recorded that call, too. More evidence. And all those texts where you congratulated her on her escape plan, where you said she was smart for what she was doing to me. I couldn't help but ask. There was a long pause. I thought she was just leaving you. Not all of this. I swear, Ryan. I didn't know how bad it was. But you knew she was taking money, I said. Another pause. I knew she planned to take some from your joint account. I didn't know about the identity theft, or the loans, any of that. She told me you were abusive and controlling with money, that she needed to get away from you and take what was rightfully hers. Classic Amber, manipulating everyone around her. I almost felt sorry for Tiffany. Almost. The morning of the trial, things took another turn. Amber's lawyer, a slick guy named Harrison, requested an emergency meeting. Amber, her parents, Harrison, Mrs. Patel, Goldstein, and myself ended up in a conference room. Amber looked terrible, designer clothes, but with deep circles under her eyes. Karen and Bill looked like they'd aged a decade. Karen couldn't even look me in the eye, which was a first. Bill kept adjusting his tie, like he wanted to be anywhere else. We want to propose a settlement, Harrison said smoothly. Miss Carlson is prepared to plead guilty to reduced charges if Mr. Donovan agrees to certain terms. I looked at Goldstein, who had a shark-like grin on his face. What kind of terms? I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral despite the adrenaline coursing through me. She'll return $25,000 immediately and agree to a payment plan for the rest, Harrison said, sliding a document across the table. I laughed. Really? Where's this $25,000 coming from? I thought she'd spent it all. Karen cleared her throat. We're going to sell our vacation home in Michigan to cover it. Bill wouldn't even look at me. We were going to sell her car. That's when I realized they knew. They probably always knew what their daughter was really like. Maybe even enabled her. But now that it was their money on the line, they were suddenly very interested in making things right. Not enough? I said, sliding the document back without even reading it. That's a very generous offer, considering. Harrison started. Considering, I interrupted. Considering she stole over $226,000 from me? That she left me homeless and drowning in debt? That she's been living the high life with stolen money while I've been sleeping on a couch for 4 months? Mr. Donovan, please be reasonable, Harrison said, in that condescending lawyer voice. I want every penny back. That's not possible, Harrison said. But we could. It is possible. I cut him off. Sell your house. What? Karen gasped. We can't sell the house. You can't sell your house, I repeated. Amber stole over $226,000 from me in total. Your vacation home and her car covers, hopefully, a third of that. I want it all. This is outrageous, Bill finally spoke up. We're trying to be reasonable here. Was it reasonable when your daughter emptied my accounts? When she opened fraudulent credit cards? When she bought a boat in my name? I was ice cold. Now, here's my offer. You sell the vacation home, the car, and you take out a hefty mortgage on your primary residence to pay me back everything within 30 days. Amber pleads guilty to all charges and serves whatever sentence the judge decides. Or we go to trial, and I make sure every detail of how your precious daughter operated goes public. Every text, every email, every Instagram post showing how she was spending my money. Mrs. Patel sat back, letting me run with it. Goldstein was taking notes, nodding occasionally in approval. And one more thing, I added. What about the business loan? What about Tiffany? What about Chris? This wasn't Amber's first rodeo, was it? Just her biggest score. How many others are there? The color drained from Karen's face. Bill's hand went to his chest like he was having heart problems. You can't prove any of that. Amber finally spoke, but her voice lacked any conviction. I pulled out my phone and played Tiffany's confession. Then Chris's statement. And then I showed them the binder of evidence I'd compiled. Bank statements, credit reports, screenshots of Amber's social media, showing her on expensive trips right after she'd cleaned me out. The detective had given me copies of everything. I have all of this and more. Ready to submit to the court. Ready to send to your employer. ready to post online for everyone to see what kind of person you really are. Amber started to cry. Not pretty movie tears, but ugly, snotty sobs. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, I did it. I've always done it. I have a problem. Not my problem, I said, standing up. Those are my terms. Take them, or I walk out that door, and we go to trial. Karen tried one last plea. Ryan, please, we raised her better than this. We don't know what happened to her to make her do this. Save it, I said. You raised her exactly like this, a selfish, entitled thief who thinks the world owes her everything she wants. And now you get to pay for it too. Long story short, they took the deal. All of it. Mrs. Patel worked it out with Harrison while Amber signed a confession detailing everything she'd done to me and others. Karen sobbed quietly in the corner, while Bill just stared straight ahead, occasionally signing whatever document was put in front of him. The judge, at the sentencing hearing, wasn't impressed by Amber's crocodile tears. Miss Carlson, this court has seen many cases of fraud, but few as calculated and ruthless as yours. You have demonstrated a pattern of predatory behavior that suggests you view relationships as opportunities for financial gain, rather than emotional connection. She got 8 years. With good behavior, she'll serve at least 4. Karen and Bill sold their vacation home, Amber's car, and took out a sizable mortgage on their house to pay me back. They will be feeling the pain of their daughter's actions for years to come, just like I did. It's been 6 months since the sentencing. I moved into my own apartment, small, but mine. My credit score is slowly climbing. I got a better job at a bigger tech company, with an understanding boss who hired me because he respected how I handled this whole mess. I sometimes get texts from unknown numbers, usually Amber using someone else's phone from prison. I don't read them anymore. Sometimes Karen sends me emails blaming me for destroying her family. I forward them directly to a folder called Karma. Jake and Megan had me over for dinner last weekend. Jake toasted to Karma being a bigger person than Amber ever was. I'm not completely healed yet. I check my credit report every week. Still get a knot in my stomach when my card goes through at a store. Still have trust issues that have kept me from dating again. But I got something many victims never get. Justice. Not just courtroom justice, but the satisfaction of seeing my abuser and her enablers face real consequences. Knowing they will be literally paying for this for years to come. Seeing the shock on their faces when they realized I wasn't going to give up, wasn't going to settle for less than I deserved. So, if you're reading this because something similar happened to you, remember, document everything. Build your case meticulously. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking it's your fault. And when it comes time to negotiate, don't settle. Make them pay for everything. Because sometimes, revenge isn't just sweet, it's necessary. Edit. This blew up overnight. Thanks for all the awards and support, guys. To answer some common questions. Yes, I got most of my money back, about 85% so far, with payments still coming in. Amber's parents had to sell their vacation home and take out a second mortgage on their primary house. They're on a payment plan now, and trust me, I'm watching those payments like a hawk. No, I don't feel bad about making her parents pay. They raised her to feel entitled and never face consequences. Now, they're facing them too. Every email from Karen blaming me just confirms I made the right decision. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.